I am such a huge mess. I keep talking, and I don't check my phone, and I'm an idiot. So I could be talking for like half an hour, and if I don't check my phone, and it's like, dude, it's like, the hour has gone by a long time ago. So, anyways, doing that, I just noticed something that I should have done before, which is like these lighter shapes in her hair. Really, really nice. Because I don't want to leave that. I don't want to leave that kind of empty area over here. I'll shape those a little bit better later. But it's almost like there's like a band of light that's coming through the middle of her hair. It's really, really nice. That was a little too much. Or too yellow, maybe. There you go, that's better. Cool. So that's good. That's good. And then just like that. Good, better. So maybe I was saying something and you guys didn't catch it, but I have a tendency to go really deep with my features. Like I use very kind of dark colors I'll use like alizarin or like a mix of alizarin and cat red, or very, very deep kind of nice rich color to sort of serve the purpose of drawing mark almost, and I have a tendency to do that a lot, and it works really well with some paintings, but sometimes when I have to be more subtle, it doesn't really. So in this one, I'm noticing that there's a ton of like midtones that are serving the purpose of those drawing marks that I always do, but they're very much so like midtones. So I don't want to go deeper than that, because if I do, I'll ruin the whole sort of atmosphere of the painting, and I know that that's something that I'm really attracted to right now. So I have to be very, very careful with that. So, which sometimes can be very tricky, very difficult, because you have to model form, but you have to model it within a very restrained set of values. So that's, it's something that I've always liked, but it's always tough. And when you put color into that equation, then it makes it a little bit harder. So we'll see how it goes. Buen día, siguiendo un poco de sol viendo Pintara y escuchándolo. ¿Qué hubo, Benito? Muy bien, muy bien. So even though I want to be careful, because that's always something that I'm striving to be when I have a drawing, I have those, I should finish this shadow mask. Fuck. I have those sort of anchor marks that I usually relate to my features, maybe. But I don't want to be super tentative when I keep painting, so I'm gonna try and block in that light right now, and we'll see how that goes. It's cool. And I want to make it a little bit different from this. That's why it was so important to make this first, because I want to make it a little, hopefully lighter and more towards the yellow. That's the plan. Let's see if I can follow that, or, it's going to be a mess. So this is my bristle brush. And the reason I like using it is that it does, if you want it to, it'll make like a really bold stroke with a lot of paint. It can load up with paint, and you can kind of deposit on your surface a ton of paint. But you can also kind of barely scratch the surface if you want to, and you can kind of drag a little bit of the paint across, and that way you kind of you can kind of give yourself the chance to develop the paint surface a little bit slowly, a little bit more slowly. So even though you are committing to something, you give yourself a chance to make adjustments and to further develop the form without being without overcommitting yourself to something. And then in an alla prima painting, if you do that, it's not that you can't fix it. I mean, I've always said that paintings can always be adjusted, always. No matter how much paint you have, if anything, you can just scrape paint, and that would be totally fine. But, so never be, some people despair so much when they're painting because they feel like they've ruined the painting. And I always tell them, no, painting's never, ever ruined. It's never gone past the point where you can't do anything to it. So don't ever be nervous about those things. So one of the ways that I've noticed that I can go about doing that is by being very, very careful with the amount of paint that I put in this first kind of pass. I have to model my form afterward. I mean, I have to keep modeling my form. But I can kind of, I don't know if you hear it. It's like scratching the surface. Maybe you guys can hear it, but you're just barely sort of putting paint on top. It would be the equivalent of having a wash before you kind of commit yourself a little bit more to your paint. So that's what I'm doing right now. It's and I'm obviously using the oil that we have in our paints to help me do that. So the important thing is not to think that we're being bold while doing this. I'm actually being quite careful. It's actually quite the opposite. But it very quickly can give you a sense of form, of unity of form. So that's the light of the eye. It's not going to be that light, but that's the light of the eye that I was talking about that I want to push a little bit, because it just makes it kind of weird and cool. And I've painted my daughter really cute many times, so I'm totally fine with making her look a little weird, once in a while. So this would be one of those days. Photo of his daughter. Yeah. I wish I could do this from imagination. Maybe one day I'll try to paint something from imagination and I'll show you guys. It's far more, in my case, it's far more restricted. I think that's something that when you're accustomed to painting from life, you start being too reliant of painting from life. You have to have a model of everything that you paint. And it's not to say that we can't investigate and learn how to paint whatever it is that we want to learn how to paint. But no, I wish I could say that I'm doing this from imagination, but it's not the case. I think that if somebody gave me a drawing, or if I could use one of my drawings, and then somebody tells you, oh, just paint this, I could do that. I can for sure do that. I know enough about color that I can totally feel comfortable just putting color down on top of form. But I think I would feel the need to have that, to have at least that really nice structure drawing underneath. As you know, if it's a really good drawing, I think it would be very easy for us painters to do that. But and I worked a lot of my life just from imagination for a long time, but I don't think I'm that good at doing that. I mean, there's a lot of people that are a lot better than I am. So, you know what I'm thinking? Even though I'm really liking the way this makes that mid-tone, I think I'm almost inclined to like grab my other white and use it alongside this one. Maybe we'll see how that goes. But because I'm noticing that I'm getting like a really nice mid-tone, but if I want to go a little bit lighter, it's getting a little more difficult. So we'll see. We'll see if I decide to do that. That's totally fine. Qué grande, Nicolás. Un abrazo desde Argentina, ¿no? Muy amable. Muchas gracias. So, let's see. There's still changes in tiny little changes in hue and tiny little changes in value that I want to get to. And I want to lay paint with this brush first, but I'm also aware that eventually if I want to be very sort of, not precious, but if I want to be careful about certain shapes, I have to grab a smaller brush. I just have to. There's no other way around it, and I'm totally fine with it. I've many times what has happened to me is that I start developing, let's say a face, and I very quickly realize that I've been losing that because I'm paying attention so much to like little details. And I'm trying to model eyes or nose or mouth or whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be one of those important features. It could be something else. I start losing the sense of wholeness in my picture. So I tend to then go back to my bristle brush and then try to go back to the sense of the whole. I actually just put down some of this white, and hopefully I'm going to try to see how much I can push my lead paint today. And it's totally fine if you're working one layer of paint and you're using those two whites. That's totally fine. That's they are going to mix together in this paint layer, so there may be different drying times. But since I'm not painting again on this layer of paint, I don't have to be totally worried about that. So it would be worrisome if you were doing a painting with different. With a lot of layers, so you would have to be careful about your drying times within those layers. So, see, like I just put my lead paint on my palette, and I was able to make that just very, very light, very quickly, and that's what I was kind of missing. So I think that I'm fine with that base. That kind of creamy quality that I got with the base color that I put with the lead, with the lead. But I'm going to use my titanium with kind of dryers to further this painting along, just because I think it's going to make it a little easier for me to just develop form in this session. So. I think I'm going to start with the nose, which feels really like a sort of it feels like an anchor point of the face. So I really, really enjoy painting like a nice structured nose. So I think I'm going to go for that first. We'll see. This is a lighter, but it's slightly grayer on this side. So I want to go for that. for that. Let's see. Perfecta la paleta. How do you avoid the trap of just copying when painting from a photo? I think I'm looking more at my painting than I'm looking at my photograph also. Like I want something highly specific to happen within my painting. So I always kind of view my photos as starting points, but never goals. Never ever the end goal of my painting. I just kind of tell myself, this is where I'm getting all my information from, but I also have the responsibility to make something happen within my painting. So, what sort of experiences aid me in the process of trying to make this my own painting and to understand how to do this? Painting from life. Like that's where you get a lot of the experiences that you end up using, a lot of the information that you end up sort of translating when you paint from a photograph. So that's why I always tell people, like, never leave anything behind. Never sort of get used to one manner of working. Always make it almost uncomfortable for yourself, so that you know that you're constantly learning and constantly having tools that you can then put to use when you're painting. So what makes that possible? The fact that I'm almost channeling stuff that I've done while painting from life, numerous occasions right now. So I'll start with that nose, but as I said, even though I'm a little hesitant about it, I think I'm going to get a smaller brush and work on that face. Let me see if I can push this a little bit. Is it daytime over there? How important? Yeah, it's day. Yeah, I always, if I can choose, I always paint with daylight. Always. I don't like artificial light at all to paint from. So if I'm given the chance, I'm always going to work from daylight. So again, like I said, I have to push a little bit more. I'm glad that I didn't go overboard with these, with the darks, for example, in her nostrils initially. But I also know that they have to be darker. So I'm going to go for that right now. These are very annoying because if you make a stroke that's off, you have to do a lot of stuff again. Oof, and I hadn't warmed up today, so I pretty much woke up. I was in the computer for a little bit, and I'm right here painting. So it's so weird to just try to hit like a brush stroke like that. But, that's why we do this every day, so that when we need to have that ability, like it's always going to be there. So, because it's very, very, it betrays you very quickly, drawing and painting, if you don't do it enough. It's not like riding a bike. It's you have to take care of your ability. You have to take care of your hands and your sort of the coordination that you have constantly, because it's not, you can't go on vacation for 2 months and then come back and expect it to be there immediately. Like, it'll be there again, but you have to sort of work for it again. It'll make you work for it again. So I'm spotting those smaller darks that are helping me shape this head a little bit better. Just a little bit better. I mean, all the information was there, but these are helping me achieve kind of a little bit of clarity a little more quickly. So I need those. I'm always aware that I really need those. Especially if the goal of the painting is not to be this kind of loose gesture, which is very nice, but that wasn't the goal of this painting in particular. So the goal of this one is to just have this very specific expression of her face be there. So if I want that, I have to work hard to like get to that. I can hint at it, I can evoke it if I do broader things, but if I want something very specific, I have to paint something very specific. So, let's see. So this mask, that shadow plane of her nose, super important. And that one is important, but the underplane of her nose is equally as important. It's probably not as dark as that. It is dark, but it's not as dark as her nostrils. So I have to be very careful that I kind of have the right sort of change in value between those two. So that the other one feels dark, but it doesn't compete with the dark of the nostrils. That's better. That's a lot better. So, let me see. Let me get to this. Okay, cool. It's a little bit better. So, that seemed. I think she has lazy eye. I think I always. No, she doesn't have lazy eye. And even if she did, she would be the most perfect girl in my whole universe. So, I wouldn't care if she had a lazy eye. But no, I actually love painting people when they're not, or enhancing expressions that we believe to be irregular. You know, we are so enamored by symmetry in our bodies. We are so attracted as human beings to highly symmetrical bodies. That I'm always attracted to things that challenge that symmetry, because I think symmetry is expected and boring. So I really don't. When I'm looking at someone, especially like someone I love, like my daughter, and she has that moment of it's almost vulnerability where her body I catch her body or her expression like mid shift, and she can show me something that I don't really associate with her expression, and it feels amazing and really quite perfect. Like I'll go for that. I'll happily go for that, because I find that those things are super fun and exciting to do. Again, it's almost like portraying with delicacy something that is, I think, present in all of our bodies, which is asymmetry. Like nobody is perfectly symmetrical. Nobody. There's no human being on earth that is perfectly symmetrical. Our bodies don't work that way. Our structure is set that way. You know, that we have, you know, 2 eyes, 2 corners of the mouth, 2 nostrils, 2 ears. We have 2 scapula. Our hip has 2 sides that are the same, but it's never quite exactly the same. Our bodies always kind of exert force in varying degrees in terms of our hemispheres. So we always end up using one side of our body a little bit more. Like our arms are not exactly the same. That's why, like bodybuilders, for example, or people that really care about that stuff, they have to be super aware of not overworking your dominant side of your body more than the other side, because they judge them on like symmetry. That's a very classical way to judge like a body. So, but I'm always attracted to the things that are not quite like canon, like classical canon. So I feel that at our most vulnerable, we are more beautiful. So so that's sort of what kind of happens when I try to paint that way. You're a delightful teacher. I'm in your Artiscape workshop. I'm so excited. Oh, excellent. The Italy one. That's super cool. That's super cool. I'm very excited too. It looks like a really nice villa, and it looks like a super cool experience. So I'm sure we're going to work hard and have a lot of fun. First things first. We're going to work hard, but it's a beautiful setting. So I'm sure painting is always going to be fun, and if done in a beautiful setting in Tuscany, that can only make it a lot more like worthy. So that's awesome. Nice to meet you, and yeah, for sure we'll have a great time over there. What's more important than a portrait? Whatever you deem more important than a portrait. I mean, I'm sure that people that are hired to do very traditional portraits, likeness can be highly, highly important for the person that is paying for that portrait, and not only likeness, but a sense of elegance and just the way you portray that person has to evoke or exalt some values that person thinks they have, or that they think that the people that are going to see this portrait, something that they want them to know about themselves, or I don't really, scratch that. I do those portraits. I have done those portraits I've painted a Colombian president, I've painted chancellors, foreign ministers for Colombia. So I totally understand how to do that, what they expect of me when I paint that portrait. It's more of a dignified photograph. I hate to say it, I hate to put it that way, but that's what it is. That's what people really, really want when they hire you to do these kind of formal portraits. So it's kind of sad. It's a little sad because it's somewhat limiting. They never want like something like Lucian Freud, for example. Those are portraits that I think spoke more about himself than the sitter, really. I mean, they started from the sitter. They obviously it's stuff that was ignited. It's a reflection that is ignited when you have that relationship with your sitter, with the subject of your paint. But it speaks more about the painter than the subject. And that's probably the one that I'm more interested in, personally, because I feel, yes, you're obviously reliant on your subject matter, and I'm always grateful, and I'm always like super happy when somebody poses for me, or when somebody, when I find somebody attractive in terms of painting, in terms of wanting to say, oh, I want to speak about you in my painting. But I'm always very aware that I do that because I want to paint, because I want to learn something about myself while I'm painting it, while I'm painting that person. So, and there's nothing egotistical about that. That's the nature of what we do. We do paintings, and we are speaking about whatever we represent, but we are speaking about how we perceive whatever we represented. We don't really, we're not just saying, oh, that's that tree. No. We're saying, I want to show you why when I was walking past that tree, I was immediately attracted by that tree. And hopefully my painting is telling that story. What it is that made me stop and say, wow, I have to paint that tree. And I know you were asking about a person, about painting portraits, but it's exactly the same with anything we decide to paint in nature. To me, it's exactly the same. The thing is, with people, we make judgments about our own humanity while we paint them, and that's something that's the nature of those reflections is something that can only happen with painting another human being. But essentially, paint. If you work from nature, that almost existential questioning can be done every single time you paint from nature. Every single time you paint from nature. So that I would always feel is the most important part of wanting to paint somebody else. From them, you listen to them, and by listening, I don't mean, it doesn't have to be a literal sense of listening, or it can be if you want to learn about your sitter's life and your sitter's experiences, and you want to have those shape your painting. But you can listen in the sense that, if you spend 100 hours or maybe 2 hours or maybe a couple of minutes painting, the subject of your painting, whomever you decided to be the subject of your painting, you are having a type of conversation with them while you're painting. And you're having conversation with them and with yourself, and you're having conversation with your beliefs and your biases and the stuff that you hold dear, the stuff that you think that is important to you, and you challenge all those things while you paint. So essentially, I think that's those things that feel almost intangible are the ones that are relevant about making paintings, not the fact that we're just painting. If we were just painting, there's been so many people throughout centuries that have done amazing paintings that would, you could say, well, if that's what painting was all about, then what's the point? Like, there's way more than enough painting to go around for centuries. Why would I be important in this equation if the sole purpose of painting is making nice paintings? But I think it's not. I think it just provides you with a space where you can reflect upon yourself, and while reflecting upon yourself, you're probably reflecting about your role in society, your role as a human being, and I think that that's really important for people. Like, we as a species, we respond very, very directly towards that, towards those reflections, and that's why we can be here. And for example, right now, let's say America, the United States, and has taken like a definite posture in terms of political, geopolitical, like a geopolitical standpoint in terms of their relationship with Iran, and that can be very divisive. But we can be here. I have tons of followers from Iran, and we can be here right now, and we could be bonding while I'm painting this face, because we are speaking about not things that have to do with borders, or not things that have to do with politics, but we're speaking about something very, very, very primal that is just a reflection about how we represent ourselves and how we understand ourselves. And by ourselves, I mean in a broader sense. So I've always believed that that's something that painting can do. So it's not, you obviously paint just so you can paint better, learn how to paint better. I mean, those are all things that are inherent to the nature of wanting to learn something. But I'm very attracted to the fact that it is it opens up the possibility so that you can have like a type of conversation with people and reach people and touch people that you would never think have anything in common with your lifestyle or your work or your habits or your beliefs. And strangely, like in this arena, we can share a lot of stuff and a lot of sensibilities that can make us closer. So I don't know. That's that's why I value painting. I mean, making a nice painting, yes, that's part of it. That's always like a goal. If it happens, you're very happy. But I don't know. I think it's underselling it if you just think of art and specifically about painting. And I always speak about painting because I think there's something very, very specific about the act of painting that belongs to the act of painting and doesn't, the reflections and the time that you have with your painting are that sort of interaction is not present in a lot of other practices. So that's why I try to emphasize that it is something that I find in painting. But essentially it's something that can happen in all great art, I feel. So again, it's just an opportunity that you have to learn about yourself, about what you think you believe, about your past, about the decisions that you make nowadays. It's a strange form of meditation, I believe. And I don't meditate. I've tried, but I suck at it. My mind just goes 1,000 miles an hour. But I notice that when I try to meditate, I can't do it. But I notice that when I'm painting, that's exactly what's happening. So it's actually very. It's a space for me that just belongs to me and my thoughts, and I think that's one of the reasons why I go back to it constantly, because it provides me with that space that nothing else in my life provides me with. So yeah, that's a long-winded answer. Whew, that was terribly long and almost superficially spiritual. So I'm going to stop there because I don't want to make it sound like I am like this is a religion of some sorts. So, but I like it when I talk a lot and then I look at my painting and I'm like, oh shit, I advanced without even noticing. So it's always fun. If I'm talking a lot, it's really because I'm trying to paint, which makes no sense at all. It's just the chance that I get to really concentrate on my painting it's exactly the chance where I'm just talking the most. It doesn't make sense, but anyways. So I'm let's go back to like some formal qualities of this. I have to still go back to these places where I want to pay more attention to the specifics of her face. But I'm liking that there's a sense of a specific quality of form, but it also feels still very broad, very big. I always, if you guys have watched me paint, and I know a lot of you guys are super cool and hang out a lot in these live streams. But if you've heard me say it once, I probably will say it 1,000 times. One of the things that attracts me most about painting is having that bigger, broader sense of what something feels like. So I'm always kind of painfully aware of me messing that up if I keep going, or if I overdevelop an area that I'm not really interested in. I'm always so careful of not doing those things. But at times it happens, sometimes it's just a trap and you fall into it, and there's nothing you can do except kind of acknowledge that you lost that round, that when you look back you're like, that thing beat me, like I have to be more concentrated next time. And I'm a very firm believer of next time. You have to push yourself to try and do the best you can within a painting experience. Like right now, this is an experience that I'll have for 3 hours maybe. But that experience will only be useful to me the next time I go and paint. It'll only be useful to me the next painting. It's never useful right then and there, because you need time to like try and finish something up to the best of your ability, but you also need time to reflect upon it, to then go back and look at it again and say, wow, what did I miss? Like, why wasn't I able to do this? And judge why, and try and figure out why. And these are the things that we can only do ourselves. We can't be reliant on like our teachers or other people telling us why we messed up. We have to be willing to put that hard work ourselves, because if we start believing that that's something that only other people can tell us, then we're always going to be reliant. We're never going to be able to paint by ourselves, ever. We're always going to hope that we have a chance to interact with our teachers or with our friends that we deem better painters than ourselves, and for them to then shine some light on something that we weren't able to do or we weren't able to understand. Now, our friends can definitely be those people, but at some point we have to do that work ourselves. We have to be capable of doing that stuff ourselves, or else it doesn't make any sense for us to be alone or to try to figure things out alone. And there are things that we can learn about ourselves as painters that can only be answered by ourselves, only. And if we start depending on other people for that guidance, it's going to be so hard for us to eventually be able to say, I figured something out. We're always going to be looking for, and I'm not helping myself because I do workshops, but we're not helping ourselves when we say, I'm going to take this workshop because that person is probably going to help me clear out a ton of stuff. And maybe that happens, and that's really cool if that happens to you. But eventually you're going to have to just go about it yourself and do it yourself. So the quicker you teach yourself that independence, the better. And again, I know I'm not doing myself any favors here, because I'm telling you guys, like, yeah, take my workshop and then don't take it. So, but I think that's that I have to be very honest with that. So, you're such a great artist and inspiration. Thank you for making the art world a better place. I don't know if I'm making the art world a better place. I don't know what my impact in the art world is is really like, but I'll tell you that I love to paint. It can be as easy as me just saying I actually deeply love to paint. So when I'm painting, I want to be capable of transmitting this thing that I enjoy so deeply and dearly. So it's just, if you're watching me, I don't mind if you don't like what I paint or how I paint it, but I've always sort of felt that it's that at least you have to give me that I actually love what I do. Like, I really deeply love and enjoy what I do. So yeah. So if that can change other people, if that can give them a sense of, or if I can share this and hopefully you guys, we as a collective can find a space in our lives where we can do this thing that we love to do, then I feel that that's awesome, Then having the ability to just convey that, I think it's super cool. So this is the sort of like a gray. It's a little more yellow. It's a little more yellow, but I kind of like that there's a sense of this purple in my painting, within the whole of my painting, and I want to keep that. I want to keep that sort of color harmony within my painting. That was not my intention initially, but it's been happening, and many times I believe that some of the best things that can happen in our paintings are not the things that we had, labored and worked so hard in our sort of preparation sketches. It's almost like a pre-match. They're not there, but they happen while we paint, and we have to be open to being receptive to those things that happen while we paint, because sometimes they are so rich. They can be the difference between our painting just being this simple execution of an idea to this thing that's alive, this painting that is totally alive, because we were willing to almost have some humility, because it takes humility to just say, okay, just change in plans. I have to shift this, because it's almost like the painting is begging me to do this. So we have to almost relinquish our control over the image and start paying attention to its needs. And I know this is sounding again like a little esoteric, but I really feel that paintings become alive while you're painting them. They have objectives of their own, needs of their own, and we are very ignorant when we feel that we are the ones that are totally in control, and that the only thing that can happen while we're painting is just the act of us painting a painting. That's about it. It's reliant upon me, and it's just me powering over this image. And the truth is, it's many times, and if it hasn't happened to you, it's I would say it's quite a shame. But many times, as much as we want to be in control of a painting, it's almost like beyond our grasp. Sometimes it just, we have to say, wow, that's, I was trying to do this, but this is almost pushing me to do this. And those are the moments where you don't realize it, but you're answering to the needs of your painting. Like your painting suddenly became almost aware of its intentions while you were working, and you're kind of channeling all that stuff while you're painting. And I know it sounds, again, as I'm saying it, I'm like, okay, just change the channel. This guy's a freaking loon. Like, fucking go. I'm gonna listen to some other shit. But the truth is, in its simplest terms, it's just, if you want to take it, in the simplest terms, it's just you paying attention to what you're doing. That's all it is. What I was expressing was just a glorified version of just fucking keep an eye out for your painting, and just, I know that you probably worked really hard in your composition and maybe your color scheme, and you think you have everything that worked out, but I would beg you to just constantly be aware of what you're painting, and I think that's if you do that, then you have gained a lot in terms of the practice of our work. Don't stop. You're a freaking loon. But anyways, so I like that surrounding gray. It's like a purple gray. There's a really nice kind of rim lighting on top of her. What is this called? Her hood, I guess. So I want to do that, but I don't care about that just now. I kind of wanted these color surroundings so I can make a better judgment of what I want right now. And again, it's confirming that I'm finding really, really attractive the fact that I can make this. I wasn't originally. I would be lying if I would tell you that was my original intent. But if I could make this about being a sort of purple harmony with these yellowish, greenish, this moment in the background that's like a yellow, green, gray, whatever it is, sort of offsetting that purple. Those sort of purples. So I think that would work. So I'm kind of glad that happened, because I was willing to have like these different changes and shifts in hues throughout the whole painting constantly, and it would have made for a more colorful painting. But again, I chose a palette that's not quite as broad in terms of the possibilities and hues. So this is what would naturally happen with that palette. So I'm happy that that's sort of showing up in here. Okay, I didn't get that. You're right on. You begin to respond to paintings, taking it where it wants. Yeah. What is that? Gouache? No, it's oil. It's oil. I know I kind of sort of grab it and place it like gouache, but I would say, and we have to show some respect to oil paint because it's the fucking queen of painting. It's like gouache wants to look like oils. So it's a killer paint. Gouache paint is. And I've been slowly getting better at it. Slowly. Not good at it yet. But I would love to explore it a little bit more. Because it can be quicker and it could be kind of almost more effective in saying, wow, I want to place this stroke here. And it holds a lot of power when you're able to be really bold with your decisions that you make, and you can do it very quickly. So I'm actually really digging it, but I'm not good at it still. I mean, I've done a couple, and I want to keep doing more, but oof, I'm far from saying, hey guys, I'm going to do a gouache demonstration. Gouache demonstration of how much I suck. That's what I would do, or how much I struggle. So I'm not yet to that point where I would trick you guys into believing that I could do like a gouache demo and feel like I'm totally in control of that. It's not going to happen. Like I said, if you want to go see people, like look at James Gurney, look at Andrew Hem, which is a fucking master of gouache. Look at Mike Hernandez, the guy that does concept. Oof, these are Tadretz. Oh, kills it with gouache. I mean, some people are like so fucking talented with that. So, not me, not the case. So, but I am willing to learn. I'm always willing to learn. So, cool. I'll go back into the face. I know I kind of took a break from the portrait, but I'll go back to it. Don't worry about it. It's almost like what I have to do from now on is just kind of modeling. So I don't want to spend all my time just kind of fidgeting with like paint before I do stuff that I think is a little more, I think it's important to the image. So I want to try and get those things ready before I kind of keep going with smaller stuff within the face. And you guys should see how I'm painting this. I should, send me some love, because I have my tripod like on top of my leg. I have my ass like hanging off the chair so I can kind of not be like this on top of my painting. So I'm fucking dying over here. But it's all for you guys, so yeah, thank you. But it makes it hard. I know I'm like complaining like an idiot, but it makes it a little hard when I want to get in there and try to do little detail. But that was 30 seconds. I just needed 30 seconds to complain, so I'm done. Enough complaining. Now let's get back to painting. But I needed those 30 seconds, so you got to give me that. I won't complain until the end of the session again. So I have to lighten up those eyes. I know they look like kind of beads, like coffee beans almost right now, but there's light in there that's really kind of nice. I want to get to that because I don't want it to feel so deep. I like that they feel like a dark shape. It's almost they're portraits. They're Velázquez portraits that, fuck me. I don't know how he did it, but he was able to lay like this dark eye on these, with these super subtle, tones surrounding it. And I'm like, how the hell did you do that? Like, it just seems so out of place, and it would seem like, it's almost like if you dropped like a marble, like this black marble on something, and you're like, that's not going to work. That's obviously going to be really contrasty, and that's totally going to show, it's going to be, your values are going to be so off because that's so dark. And I've copied Velázquez to try and do that. Never been able to do that. It just seems like there's so much control with every other value surrounding it. And the edge work is so perfect so that you can drop this ball, this fucking dark ball, like right in the middle of the eye and say, okay, that's perfect. It's like, it's insane. It's so hard. I know people can walk past it and not ever feel like they have to think about that when they're looking at one of those portraits. But when you see it and when you kind of experience it while you're painting, you're like, fuck me, like how did he do that? Like that's so not easy. So that's why he's a genius, because he makes it look easy. He's always made it look easy, and that's why he's always going to be respected as one of like the most amazing painters in art history, because everything looks easy. Everything looks doable. When you take a look at one of his paintings, you're like, in a good day I could do that. It's like, and you're so off it when you think of that. It's like, no, you can't. You can. You're bullshitting. That's copying a Velázquez. You can kind of copy a Velázquez, but if a model was posing and you had to paint like that, it's like, good night. You can't do that. That's so impossible. Anyways, that was my Velázquez moment. So, she's so cute. She is so damn cute. Fucking my daughter is incredible. My kid is also. He's growing up. He's 10 going on 11 later this year, in a couple of months. So his 11 is pretty much like when I was fucking 18. So, I mean, he's that much of a frickin' teenager. So it's getting a little tougher, but I love the hell out of my kids, both of them. They're amazing. They are the reason I do anything. So if they're the reason I do anything, they better damn pose for me. Like, I don't want to, throw it in your face, but if you want daddy to love you, you better fucking pose. That's what I say to them every day. That's how I say good morning to them. There's something wrong with you when you're cursing about your kids. So, fuck. That's cool. There's like a night. I can't understand if it's a purple or if it's a green. That's always, I know you guys have been there. It's like, what the hell is that color? And in the end, it's whatever we want to make of it, but it's however we perceive it. But I don't know how to, I'm leaning more towards purple now. With this light, it's a perfect, I don't know. So nice. And of course it's not a purple, it just feels purple, when you compare it with the other colors surrounding it, so. You want dinner? Sit there for 3 hours. Hell yeah! Sit there for 3 years. 3 hours. How much, you have to realize how much they're going to cost. I'm kidding, by the way. You know what I was looking at the other